And the thing is, we're talking about sex because of you.
Because of the conversation
Because you demanded.
I who?
Wow.
Juanita,
Come on now.
let me just. All right, okay. Because
The road will come out.
you know,
The road is on the edge.
This is behind the scenes.
Imagine.
For real.
me, I don't roll like that. Anyway.
Tell the truth. Right, you got to pour that in there.
I got. No, it's for real. It's for real. We just have to just. All right, let me get rid of the stuff now.
Just, do I got to sip it?
No, listen.
I want to claim artistic direction.
Right, okay. This is what it is.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Now you have to do,
Is the table clean? Everything cool? Yeah. If I could, I'd have a little flower on the table.
Bro, is this in the way?
So who demanded? What are you saying about
Kelly,
who demanded?
I asked you clearly.
No, I said I was cool with whatever.
Yeah, but you said no, but let's talk about sex.
Oh my lord.
This topic, you can't rinse it, I'm on a Christian forum, yeah, and there are people on there saying, why do these Christians keep bringing up sex?
Because it's an issue.
It's a big issue.
It's a massive issue. Because they ain't open. Yeah, you know what I mean? They ain't ready. They ain't ready.
What's that, wipes? What's this?
No. I want my name in the credits.
Yeah, you'll get it at the end.
Want some?
Biscuits.
No, I'm going to use this, but it's the clean part.
Oh,
The head is a
thank
bit
you.
shiny.
Well, I'll just do this.
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just take it off, mate. Dealing with the past, you're a psychotherapist. Is that right?
Counsellor.
Come on now, tell me what you do.
I'm a counsellor.
All right, let me start again. Thank you for joining us. Kelly, but you're always going into the past though.
Yeah,
That's what
because
psychotherapy is.
no, but counselling. There's different types of kind of counselling. So there's psychodynamic. Psychodynamic is very much about history, but I'm an integrative counsellor. But I kind of more there towards my model is more psychodynamic.
Well, you featured with us on Facebook anyway. You can laugh at me, I don't care. Thank you guys for joining This Is Marriage Sessions. I thank you because after speaking to you, I know you guys got some gems about the reality of, and it's a big topic, sex, and the misnomers, the fallacies, and the fantasy aspect of it. What is it really?
Right.
What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We're going to talk about it today. And we've all got experience in marriage. We've all got children.
Yep.
And so we have got first-hand experience. You've got more children than everybody. So we come to you for advice. But, we've all got first-hand experience of what sex looks like in a relationship. And something that came up was society is selling us a ruse. Like, they're setting us up for a fall.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Well, there are a number of reasons behind this. I think ultimately, when you look at, I guess, relationships from the standpoint of, from a sexual aspect, we cannot take the approach, we cannot look at it from a world view, because every relationship is unique in itself. So I guarantee what works for relationship A will not work for relationship B, or C, or D, for example. What we try to do or attempt to do as individuals is try to apply the same model to every relationship, and it just doesn't work.
Right.
Why doesn't it work? For the obvious answer: everyone is an individual.
Can you give an example?
An example. So to be honest, each individual has a different idea of what sex is. So you know, if we look at, you know, foreplay, there are some individuals who, you know, don't even consider foreplay as sex. Let's be honest.
Wow.
You know, I mean, growing up.
Hold on. Some individuals don't consider foreplay as sex.
No, they don't.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
It's just the actual act of
Intercourse.
The penetrative sex, yeah.
But again, that goes a little bit deeper. So we can definitely explore it. But I would argue that if you don't consider foreplay, you're missing the trick. However, I can see how you can get there. We can all see how we can get there. Growing up again, in my mind, who taught me about sex? Could I talk to my parents about it? No. In fact, I'll go as far as to say they even tried to tell me about birds and bees.
How did they try?
No. This is my point.
Yeah.
This is my point.
Yeah.
Birds and bees, seriously? Seriously? Where am I? And I suppose you don't really, there isn't that platform to kind of explore it or to even question it. So you just accept it.
Well, for girls, it might be a little bit different.
Okay.
You know, we weren't really told about it. We were just told to, you know, keep away from the boys.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think the way, and maybe even my grandmother, I remember my grandmother saying, you know, when boys and them get familiar, but they're not actually telling you anything. You don't actually know what it is they're actually talking about, but in their mind, they're telling you.
They're not telling you though, are they?
No, they're not telling you.
They're trying to impart information because it's like they're scared to say certain words, right? So they're giving you half the story.
Yeah.
And then later on in life you get catch up.
Well, I think it's it's also like a cultural thing, because I remember specifically I was about 7 and I heard the word sexual on TV and I turned around to my mum and said, "Mummy, what does sexual," you know.
We'll tell you that.
That is exactly. That is big people's business, you know. You don't need to know about them, you know. Basically, I never ever asked that question again. Never. That was it.
That was it.
Because you felt uncomfortable to.
Yeah, it was almost shaming.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's so funny because you touched on a point there. And growing up, I remember whenever there was a scene that was sexually that had a sexual tone to it, it was change the channel.
Yes.
Change the channel. And if I'm honest, when I look, a part of me today kind of wants to do that. No, if I'm honest, when it comes on TV, it's like, you're mindful that you've now got kids and you're setting an example too. So I suppose, should I do that? But then I have to tell myself, no. It's just time that for me to wake up and have that conversation, have that awkward conversation. You know, and it's interesting because for that generation, that was the norm. Why was it the norm? Because their parents dealt with them or dealt with that issue in a similar way.
So you can't expect any more.
There you go.
So where are we? I'm speaking for us here. Although we represent a group of people,
sure.
We're in our 30s, 40s. And we represent a group of people, and our age group roughly got married about 5, maybe 10 years ago, some of us, yeah? So where did we learn about how to have sex?
Friends, playground, magazines, TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo the same.
And what are they saying? What are those sources telling us about what it is?
It's very much a worldview. It's very much a worldview, i.e., it's based on their experiences, which very often are the very bad experiences. But but it's always been a subject that, on a whole, people don't really want to openly discuss. Because I mean, there are things like, for example, there are certain topics in relation to sex that people are uncomfortable discussing. When it comes to positions and X, Y, Z, you just don't discuss them because it's the easy thing to do. It's the easy thing to do, and I think growing up, for me, my first encounter or being able to relate to my peers, I am going way back now, was when I was in secondary school, and then a guy he brought out a porno magazine.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh? Seriously, why have you even got this?
How did you get it?
Yeah. So it then transpires that he had an older brother.
Yep.
Who was able to obviously go in and obviously acquire it from the shop. So, for me, and then that then obviously plants a seed in your mind. And you go away thinking, maybe that's what sex is. You know what I mean? And then at some point in your life, you're then exposed to kind of pornography then.
Straight away.
And then that's it. There you go. It's like, so this is what sex must be. This is what sex must be. Again, that worldview. And then what do you do then? You then kind of bring that subtly into your relationships.
Wow.
Well, to throw another spin on in on it is we have to look at sexual abuse because when that can also
massive
form a child's kind of understanding or idea of sex through violation. Boys and girls.
Go on.
So
I'm itching to hear what you got to say. Well, you're not talking fast enough for me. I mean, come on.
Well,
bring it.
If I think of somebody who has been sexually violated as a child.
Wow.
Either way I kind of see it, it's almost like, they've opened up Pandora's box before it should even have been opened. A child is innocent, a child is, needs to bloom and, take their time, to learn things. Sexual violation it is violation, it's a forcing. Your only understanding and your experience of sex, then often, somebody who's been sexually violated may kind of gravitate to somebody who is in that powerful role. So, we can link domestic violence to it, who's somebody who's more powerful because they have no understanding of what sex really should be like. They may kind of link it to pain and not enjoying or not even being present in the act, you know what I mean? And, just kind of going through the motions because that's what you're supposed to do. But often it's linked to like an earlier experience and maybe they might not even be aware of it.
So it's that first encounter.
Yeah.
Says a lot.
Says a lot.
Does a lot. That's why I was asking, what are they teaching us? Because my first experience of pornography was my first experience of sex was pornography. Let me say it that way around. So I'm walking along. I used to go to the park around the back of my house, and there's just a magazine on the ground, and I'm like, "What's that?" And it was in mint condition. I'm like, and the memories haven't gone.
No.
I remember, how old was I? 10? 9, 10. Now, back in the day, remember, just to put this in context, there was no internet back then, right? So this was everything, do you know what I mean? It wasn't on TV.
Videotapes.
Videotapes, videotapes, yeah. And
rare though, very rare.
I wasn't getting a videotape, you know what I mean? And this is the thing, like, that's why these things are on a top shelf for a reason, It's like, you can't get hold of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's like gold dust, and I'm opening, I'm flicking, I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm like, are you serious? Now, 10 years old is nothing now.
Yeah.
But that set me up. Believe me.
Yeah.
I transposed that right through the rest of my life. First encounter. That's what we're talking about. That's set up.
And how much that sort of leaves a lasting impression,
bro.
Even for today, it is amazing. But would you have realised? I suppose if you weren't kind of in tune, would you now realise today that was, or that had such an impact on your view, for example, on even how you look at women?
I'll be honest with you, right? As soon as you ask that question, I think that if it wasn't for me independently looking for God, I will think that that's a reality.
Yeah.
That is something I need to aspire to.
Sure.
All now.
So that's your experience, yeah? Okay.
Absolutely.
For some people, it may be that there's a pattern of relationships that they might be having and negative pattern. And I think for a lot of people, and maybe I think, you know, we all reach particular milestones. And I suppose I know for me, you know, turning 40 was quite monumental in many different ways, not just at 40, but I think years leading up to it. You start to get a sense of yourself. You start to ask those deep questions, like, who am I, really? Yeah. And I suppose, you know, if you're ready to kind of do that explorative work, and I suppose for me, because I was training as a counsellor, so I had to, that was part of the training, you start to, you know, strip the layers and go back to your childhood and you can then start to link, you know, particular experiences and how it may have shaped you and shaped your worldview today, or maybe, you know, a narrative that you have in your head about yourself that, well, where did that come from? Is that actually me? And then you then kind of look back to, you know, again, your childhood, something that your parents instilled. It may not even be something your parents instilled. It could be something that your parents did. Because I believe that we subconsciously pass things down to our, you know, to our children. And there's things that haven't even happened in our lifetime that we seem to be manifesting. Do you know what I mean? But then until you do that work, you know what I mean? You then begin to understand, you know, where it's coming from, where this pattern is coming from. And you have to be ready. You have to be ready to kind of, I remember, I never forget, one of our tutors had said to us about counselling, training to be a counsellor. It's almost like it completely breaks down your life, completely destroys it.
It's painful.
It's really, really painful because you then you're no longer running away. You're actually now confronting everything, things that you weren't even aware of. But then you're building a new foundation based on new understanding. And that is really painful, but it's actually very gratifying because you change and you see things differently, you see people differently. You then start to think, well, what is it that I really, really want here now? You know, and that's when, you know, the beauty of a new beginning is to kind of really learn and understand what it is that you actually really want.
So you touched on a point, Kelly, where you mentioned your kind of your upbringing. And for me, for example, growing up in a household where that relationship, the marriage, where that was supposed to be the perfect example, it was broken. And I recall it being broken from a very early age. I mean, so broken that it just didn't even make sense. And don't forget, as a child, you're by default looking at your parents for this kind of perfect kind of example. And I suppose if that's what you see, that then begins to inform what you will then become. So for example, I mean, I have never seen any chemistry.
You talking about your parents?
Yeah, with my parents, never. And I suppose just sort of thinking back and reflecting back, I've never seen any emotion, never seen any kind of, you know, real connection. So that being said, you could then look at, well, where was the hope then? Where was the hope for myself? And I can recall going through relationship after relationship after relationship after relationship and trying to kind of make some kind of...
Make it up.
Right. Trying to make it happen, really. And it's never happened.
But then the question that I would then ask you was, who were you? Because, you know, for me, it always starts and ends with you.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you have a set, and this is, and you know, obviously this is things that I've only learned really recently in terms of, well, who am I really? Once you get to know yourself and understand what it is that you like and what you want and what your needs are, then you're able to then communicate what it is that you kind of want. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting point. So clear there has to be a degree of communication. You know, how many people today actually think that communication is actually a key part of sex?
You mean like the ability to tell your partner, I like this, I like that, I want you to do this to me.
Yeah.
But I think there's a hurdle here. I don't know if, hopefully we'll stay on topic. There's a hurdle here. Because if I grew up in a religious institution, right, certain things, well, everything's not good. Apart from the act of intercourse itself.
Apart from the missionary.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Everything else is a sin almost, right? And so, you know, you're struggling because you're seeing images, because now we get it on our phone, the porn's on our phone, the mags, or whatever you want, it's all there in the palm of my hand. But with my wife, can I tell her that I want this, that I've been living since I was 10 years old?
Amazing.
Can I tell her that? And then, am I going to scare her off? Because I chose a good Christian girl, yeah? No, I mean, I'm talking about hypothetically. Right. Hypothetically, I know who my wife is, you know? but I chose a good Christian girl.
Right.
Because I've been through the world.
Right.
Come to church. I cannot tell her, this is what I want, because I know she's not on it.
Yeah, don't know that.
I'm presenting a scenario.
Okay.
I'm presenting a scenario to say, can we talk about sex? Because you said communication.
Yeah. You know,
a lot of presumptions are made, but I'm presenting.
Of course. Yeah. No, absolutely. So then, how do you know whether you are satisfying your partner?
Why are you looking at me?
If you never talk about these awkward conversations, these awkward topics, how do you know you're satisfying your partner? How do you know? No, seriously, how do you know? Because you know they say about when it comes to communication that you got the body language that accounts for kind of about 70%. They say the verbal accounts for something like maybe 20%.
30%.
Yeah.
20 to 30%.
How do you know? If she's someone or an individual, or vice versa, if they don't express themselves very well, so you can't really tell physically, how do you know? And that's the question on the table. How do you know you are satisfied?
It's going clockwise.
Oh, right.
Your partner.
You don't know unless you have the conversation, unless you have the difficult conversation. And again, it's about, you know, knowing what it is that you like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you know what you like, and I say this, I say this because, you know, again, I think, you know, our upbringing, and obviously, you know, you talked a lot about kind of living in a really religious household, you know, we don't actually understand ourselves.
So I just want to be clear, that was hypothetical.
I know it was hypothetical.
All right, cool, carry on.
Just, you know.
Just in case, because I've got to edit that out. What are people looking at? Anyway, go on.
But I just think that, you know, you're not taught. You're not taught how to love yourself. I think that's if we're gonna talk about sex, we need to link, you know, love of self. You know what I mean? And when I say love of self, I don't mean it in a kind of arrogant, you know what I mean, egotistical way.
Narcissistic way, yeah, right.
I'm looking at it. I'm talking about it purely from you have to have love for yourself first and foremost before you can then, you know, express it to somebody else. And part of that is about being vulnerable. So it's about having that conversation. If you've got a sense of who you are and what you like, then you should be okay. When I say okay,
no, I agree with you. Sorry,
you know, it's about having that dialogue with your partner to say, look, actually, when you do that, doesn't work for me, actually. But when you do These are my erogenous stones.
Here's my list.
I need you to focus.
I need you to
right.
pay attention.
Right.
Out here in these streets.
Read that and tell me what you think.
And this is the thing. You've got to, as a person, you've got to know who you are and what you like first and foremost. Whether it be through reading, like there's lots of literature out there.
Yes.
There's a massive kind of emergence of like a lot of kind of like sexuality kind of workshops and things like that. So there's a couple of interesting ones on Instagram where it's about kind of getting to know yourself first, to know what you like.
Yes.
And you're talking about sex.
Yeah, talking about sex, and then you're then able to then transfer that to your partner, because naturally you're then going to want to transfer that to the person that you want to be intimate with, because that is also a form of communication.
Yes.
You know, sex.
Very much
So, you know, and that's what, you know, I would be asking sister girl, or you know.
I think he's burning up over
You know, very, 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 very good point. Is it more important when it comes to in a relationship and in the sort of context of sex? Is it more important to or is it selfish rather to want to satisfy yourself rather than to please your partner?
This is big.
That's a big one. I'm not really quite sure how to answer that one, because I know for men, a major part of the satisfaction of sex is pleasing their partner.
Let's say.
Okay.
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah,
Say that again. Say that again. Rephrase it.
Do you want me to rephrase? Yeah. Okay, so there are some men whose satisfaction for sex, or feeling that they've enjoyed sex, is about I feel like she's enjoying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that an ego thing, or is that do you know what, a selfless thing?
I don't know.
Because there's a difference. There's a big difference.
I can imagine there's definitely a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not a man, so I don't.
No, that's fair enough.
But I'm just in terms of conversations that I've had with men, a lot of it is about. I remember having a conversation with somebody about can sex be enjoyable without an orgasm?
Sure.
You know, and
sure.
You know, I said, well, yeah, I think because it's not about the crescendo, it's about being present and enjoying the experience, because that is what it's all about. But then for some guys, it's like, well, you know, for a man, you kind of need to have an orgasm.
Now this is interesting because there's an Instagram post that I've put up.
I know that one,
right?
yeah.
Where this lady was saying, the focus on the climax. How we got to this topic, I don't know, but we're here now. The focus on the climax is wrong. It's about the experience before that, and that we don't always have to climax before.
Yeah.
And I was having this conversation with some friends, very close friends of mine, and they were saying, "So what? You're not gonna ejaculate?" And I said, "I'm giving this thing a try." Okay, and they said, "What's the point?"
Very, 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 very interesting topic. I mean, is it possible to have good sex without the climax?
Yeah.
Are you? Because I don't know, for a guy, I'm not really sure, but
no, it is possible. It is.
Okay.
It is possible.
Okay.
You know, and this is why I was saying that we are shaped from birth.
Yeah.
As to what it's all about, and
sure.
As we unpack it and go back, we start to see what is what. You know, my perspective is based on what I was taught.
All right. Yeah.
What is the truth? What I've learned and what is the truth are two different things.
Sure. No doubt. I mean, for me, fundamentally, that can't be achieved unless there is a connection.
What can't be achieved?
You can't, as an individual, you're not able to, I suppose, eliminate the orgasm the climax from sex unless you have a relationship. And there has to be a level or a degree of not just selflessness, but there has to be a desire to enjoy the experience for the two of you.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we are all selfish by nature. So naturally, as a man, for example, growing up, I don't know anyone that would want to have sex and not orgasm. I don't know any. And again, that may well change once they're in a committed relationship and married and so on. But I don't know any growing up. In fact, that was the whole point of it.
That's the point.
That was the whole point. Let's not sort of beat around the bush. The whole point of that, kind of was to kind of get to that, to get that desired outcome. Let's be honest.
This is why women complain about a 2 or 5 minute man.
Yeah. But we've now realised that that's not really the issue anymore, is it? Or how much emphasis do you hear being placed on that?
I don't know.
No, you don't really hear it. You don't really hear it.
Being based on
being quick or rapid in that sense, a little bit disappointing, as in hardly worth the experience.
I don't really know.
I don't know. I think in looking at that, as what you brought up, we're born selfish.
No doubt.
And because we don't talk about sex, a lot of guys, in my experience, and through media, have let down their women sexually.
Yeah.
Because they're seeking pleasure.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that a lot of what we're supposed to be is the opposite to what we are.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's about not what you can get, but what you can give.
But that's what it's about. A shared experience.
There you go.
So if everybody is giving,
there you go.
then everybody is getting. Do you know what I mean? So, and this is why it's so important to be, to be brave enough or to be bold enough, depending on where you're at in your life, to be able to have that conversation, that awkward conversation about what is it that you actually really, really like. Do you know what I mean? Actually, when you do that, it's not really doing anything for me. And obviously you wouldn't, squeeze up your face like that. But, you just, you would say it in a, obviously in a much more kind of appropriate, in a more loving kind of way, in terms of you making it safe to have that conversation where you can then explore, well, actually, can we try something different? Can we try this, because actually this is what I like and this is what I like, and if everybody's open to it, everybody can have a good time. Do you know what I mean? Think about tantric sex. That doesn't necessarily mean penetrative sex, it's more about, it's quite a spiritual kind of connection.
That's something that just belongs in the East, and just leave us to do our thing. Let them do their thing, but no, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It's about the bonding and
bonding.
You call it spiritual, whatever you want to call it. It's a deep thing.
But ego plays a part as well.
Yeah, but you have to get over.
Ego plays a big part.
Get over the ego
as a barrier. You mean to learn it?
Yeah. Because don't forget, if you're thinking you're going with something good, and someone one day says, you know what, I ain't really cutting it. You've now got to overcome that hurdle. That's now an obstacle, a massive one. And if as a couple you're not in a place whereby you're able to overcome that, there's a problem right there, because that could be make or break. That's potentially make or break of that relationship. And a lot of people underestimate just what sex actually means in a relationship.
Wow.
Underestimate it. Clean.
Where you going?
Clean, because
you underestimate what sex is in a relationship.
Put it this way. As a black man, I'm black. I can't relate to any other. All right, it's cuddling during sex or after sex is foreign to me. Has been foreign. It was always foreign. Like, what is that?
Before, during, and after.
Like what is that? Like, let's cuddle. Why are we cuddling exactly? Like, for what?
But for women, as we are emotional beings, and because men are visual, so men can be turned on by what they see, whereas a woman, she can see a nice looking guy and then keep it moving. Do you know what I mean? Whereas as a woman, you have to get into her mind.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Where you know, for a man, you know what I mean, to, you know, get ready to have sex with them, you know, it's different to a woman, because a woman, you have to warm her up. So like, you know, they talk about you need to be sending her messages throughout the day and stuff. No, but you have to, because, you know, a woman doesn't operate like that, you know, where, you know, you need to feel that kind of emotional, you know, everybody's feeling that connection.
Yeah,
and,
right.
do you know what I mean? You're feeling, you know, yes, I feel like, yeah, I'm ready for this. Whereas for men, it's different, which is why I think I'd heard or I read, I think I read some research about men needing to have sex. I think it was something like every 72 hours. You know,
As in standard.
kind of, yeah. So it was you know, obviously. It varies from person to person. But then, you know, for women, you think of like some of the most unsatisfied women who can safely say, I haven't had sex in months. And actually I'm all right. Whereas probably a man would be crawling the wall. Do you know what I mean? Be like, no, I can't manage that. Do you understand? So this is what I'm saying is, if a woman is not feeling right emotionally, she's not feeling balanced, she's not feeling herself, she's not feeling loved.
Wow.
So even in terms of marriages as well, when there's, you know, husband and wife are out of sync, often, you know, she doesn't want to have sex because she doesn't feel the connection has been cut. Do you know what I mean? Or he's not investing, you know, to kind of like, you know, get you know, to get to know her.
Right.
And I'm saying getting to know because you're thinking, yeah, but I've been married to the same person like for about 1 million years. But we, you know, nothing is static. You know, we're evolving all the time. Everything is moving. So it's about keeping up to speed with the changes that each other are going through and being able to try and connect, because worldview changes, you know, everything changes. So it's about being invested and wanting to understand that person a little bit more, which helps you to...
Well, even micro changes like an illness, baby, debt, job loss,
Of course, all these major
stuff happens, and that could mean no sex for quite a while.
Yeah.
So then what do you run on? What's your fuel?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and this is married people talking to married people and talking to everybody out there to say that sex is the big thing when you first get married. It's like if you're 25 and you're about to get married, the heat is on. And I remember, I'm speaking from personal experience and from who I know. In that, what's the first thing we're looking to do in that first week? Is to have as much sex as possible whilst having a good time, honeymoon.
Yeah.
But anything can happen.
Of course it can.
Anything can happen. And what do you run on? Like, why am I here? I remember with me, because we were disjointed, and I take a lot of blame for that. I was confused. I'm like, this didn't go to plan. Why not? But I'm 10 times wiser than I was when I was 25. Do you know what I mean? But back then, I wish somebody would have said to me,
Yeah, of course.
you know what, take your time, it's all right,
Yeah.
but you need to get into each other.
Yeah.
I was not, I married my wife because I love her completely, and even more so now.
Right,
But back then,
Right.
my view of love and sex was just backwards.
So it was
warped.
it was probably would have been a carnal kind of thing in terms of...
A lot of that.
Yeah, because again, and it goes back to what is it that you understand about marriage and relationship. Because if you didn't grow up in an environment where you saw a positive saw positive examples of what it looks like. You know you want to create something different, but you don't even know how to go about it. Because I know my mum and dad divorced when I was 15. And, you know, it was a horrible, you know, for me, it was horrible. And I know for me that I was like, I am never getting married, because boy, if I got to cope with that, you drop me right out of it. But you change and you know, you learn.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted something different. I didn't know how I was going to cultivate it, because I had like very few good examples of good marriages, but I wanted something very different to what I had experienced, witnessed. But it takes patience, because you know, everybody has that idea, you know, when you on the wedding day, you know, everybody's like, oh, you're gonna have great sex tonight, you know. It's you know, for most people, if you do a survey on most people, they'll tell you on the wedding day,
you're tired.
Everyone's mash up.
You're tired.
Or it was an epic fail. It just didn't go what you know, it just wasn't what you thought it was. You were, you know, for whatever reason, do you know what I mean? And, you know, that sometimes then sets the blueprint for how the relationship then goes on from there on.
Which is what I was going to say.
And actually, when you kind of pull it all apart like a jigsaw puzzle, you've got to kind of look at it differently. You've got to be mature enough to be able to say, all right, this was whack, you know, for however long, you know, we've been married or whatever. Okay, whackery.
Let's talk. It's been bad.
Yeah, I tell you what we do. Let's wipe the slate clean and come we start again.
Yeah, we need to do that. We need to do that.
We have to start again. And do you know something? It's actually okay, but people are not brave enough to have that conversation and say, boy, you know what?
That is it.
I'm not really feeling, I don't know, I'm not feeling it. You've got to go back to basics, and you've got to, you know, it's almost like getting a whole new flip chart paper and say, all right, let's kind of try and figure this out again. Do you know what I mean? New understanding. Ego's been parked to the side, vulnerability is all there. Do you know what I mean? You're learning to trust, you're trying to be open and transparent, and you're looking at things from a loving place. You have to make a choice. Love isn't a feeling, it's a choice. You have to make a choice to, you know what? I'm going to do different. I'm going to try something different here. I'm going to choose to look at affirmations. We can talk about prayers. You know, they talk. You know, it talks about it in you know, in the Bible all the time, that, you know, you have to change the way how you see things. Do you know what I mean? And I think that is the start. It's very helpful. And often you find that the person that you married, you know, long time, 10 years ago, is a completely different person.
Absolutely. Very much so.
Today.
Very much so, yeah.
And in fact, actually, you're like, but this person is wonderful now. Because you've got a better sense of yourself. They have a better sense of themselves. Everybody is trying to be invested to try and do something different. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where true beauty is. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I would see it.
You mentioned a key point. You said that love is a choice. I didn't realize that until I got married. It's when you're presented with, or in a scenario whereby, if it isn't then for love, and you know, a choice, you know, that you've made, the relationship won't work. You know, and I mentioned earlier being selfless. Again, you don't realize how important that is until you're in a committed relationship. Until I got married, did I realize that, you know, I have to want to make Maria happy. That has to be my number one priority, is that she is happy in this marriage.
1 point. Absolutely. And many people will say, why is it that, because some people get it a little bit twisted and think that, well, where does self come into it if I'm then trying to make somebody else happy?
Right. And again, key point, because ultimately, being selfish beings, we want to be happy.
Yeah.
We want to, have all our needs met. And if we can, our wants.